W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Hey there! A very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into Rochester's only local sports talk show. It's the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, or our YouTube or Twitch channel. You can watch the Sports Bar at the Fan Rochester, fresh from an extended holiday weekend. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
Yeah, some things are good over the weekend. Amherst's ending, but we got football to talk about today.
So much to get to today, and as always on a Tuesday, even though it's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, our usual guests, and we always look forward to our Tuesday shows because that means we get the chance to talk to Amherst head coach Mike Leone.
One last time. So Mike Leone is going to do his Zoom call / press conference with the local media at 4 o'clock. We'll grab him right after that. The Amherst, if you missed it, bowed out in Game 5 to Laval by a 5-0 score. So certainly was a fun ride, but to end like that, we'll talk to the head coach Mike Leone one last time this season. That's coming up at 4:25.
OTAs underway in Orchard Park. Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard stops by in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, so James Cook, no surprise, not there today. Injury to tell you about, not a surprise.
No surprises.
Yeah.
No surprises at OTAs for the Buffalo Bills. I guess that's the headline.
And then you get, Sean McDermott saying nice things about Hard Knocks and, everything going. So everybody looks great this time of year, Danger and Shorts. So we'll talk to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout podcast coming up at the bottom of the hour because, well, it's the precursor to minicamp, which then training camp, and don't wish your time away, but football's coming.
The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line is open for you at 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in ER, goodsmokebbq.com. Would love to hear from you at 866-4326. And on top of all of that, we've got Knicks tonight as well. I mean, I think the key for the Knicks, just, spot Indiana to a 20-point lead, and you'll get yourself a win on the road.
Imagine my surprise. Now, you could say, what's wrong with you, old man? You didn't look at your phone before you went to bed on Sunday night? I was disgusted. Executive producer just suggested, why don't we watch this Italian travel show? I said, okay.
Of course you wanted to watch it. Because she's Italian!
That's right. I would highly add it to your list, Stanley Tucci.
Oh, my little one is actually watched that a little bit.
Yeah.
She'll go from cooking show to cooking show to cooking show. She'll go from Ina Garten, how bad is that, to Giada De Laurentiis, who overpronunciates everything. It's not bruschetta with her; it's bruschetta.
Yeah.
To Tucci, she's watched some of those episodes. She I don't know why. I think she just likes she's so about ambiance and so about aesthetic, and those shows are all about aesthetic, right? Everything looks immaculate. Everything looks delicious. You can't miss. And you got Stanley Tucci serving up. I've seen a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, because he's actually there and you get a little flavor for whatever.
I didn't watch any during the Knicks game, though. Is that what you're telling me happened here?
They're down by 20.
Oh, that's the key.
I mean, it's like, so am I really a fan for turning it off? Am I really a fan?
Oh, no.
I'm not the only one. I'm like, if you look at Knicks Twitter, why did we make this? Why did we trade away DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns?
Zesty Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
More zest on that man than anybody else in the NBA. I'll say this, and I fully will raise my hand. I did not watch it. I only read about it afterwards, saw the highlights afterwards. But did it not appear that the Knicks actually got better with fresh legs on the court when Brunson got in foul trouble in Game 3?
Well, that happened in Game 1 too, Danger. Okay, Brunson picks up his fifth. Oh boy. The Knicks go on a 10-0 run, and you're thinking, ha-ha, and that's how they built a big lead. But on the other end, when they brought him back in defensively, and Indiana's hitting their shots to replay Game 1, the difference tonight might be one of those guys, Neesmith, game time decision for Indiana. So that's one of their sharpshooters. So that's going to be kind of a focal point. The Knicks with who would have thought? Knicks with an opportunity, Danger, to get back to home court here tonight, game 4.
Not only that, but really to save our month of June. I mean, the month of June, if you progress this out and you see what it looks like, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, there's really nothing interesting until you get to the New York Knicks.
I'm going to bring up a couple things, but people might be like, baseball's giving us Yankees-Dodgers this weekend. Okay, that's interesting, but if you're following along, like your prediction about the Dodgers losing 5 games, I mean, you could say, well, look at their pitching, everybody's hurt. Okay, the Dodgers losing 2 or 3 to the Mets over the weekend, so that's
Wait,
coming.
you mean to tell me they've lost more than 5 games? My prediction was wrong? They were going to win 157 games. They were going to go 157-5. That hasn't happened?
No.
Oh, man.
No,
I can't believe I missed on that.
No, nobody cares when you're right. I'm telling you when you're
You're
wrong.
only telling me when I'm wrong.
Mind you, okay? They are tied with the Cubs for the second-best record, and the Mets, by the way, for the second-best record in the National League, behind Philadelphia, by the way. And the Dodgers still leading the NL West, so it's not like everything's terrible, but by their standards, they have 21 losses, Danger. It's not 5. God, you're a little off there.
I was a little off. I can't believe it. What was I thinking when I made that prediction? Just beating myself up. That'll be a fun series. Stanley Cup playoffs have kind of, I mean, my interest is kind of waning. I don't know. Edmonton is still interesting to me.
Carolina,
Florida series has been a laugher. I think they just were gifted a game, and I mean, all things are kind of like trending. Even if it's Florida Dallas or Florida Edmonton, like neither of those matchups in the final would be like as interesting as anything that the Knicks would do if the Knicks were to continue this series in Indiana, somehow find themselves in the final.
I mean, basketball people might say Indiana, Oklahoma City would be a good, just from a pure standpoint, but tell me there isn't anything more interesting in sports today than the New York Knicks.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, I mean, aside from what we spend the majority of our time talking about here in the sports bar, and that's the NFL.
Well, that's it, of course. The NFL. We will talk to Matt Perino coming up bottom of the hour. We mentioned there was a Buffalo Bill that was hurt.
Yeah. This is not a surprise.
Joey Bosa will not participate today. He pulled a calf, I believe it was late last week, Thursday, I believe. And so he'll be out for more than likely the foreseeable springtime at least. And then we'll get into training camp. Should be good to go by training camp. But understand it just happened late last week, so still in kind of the exploratory phase of what that's going to mean. So Joey's was off to a good start before that, and so it's unfortunate to see him go down. But it offers someone else an opportunity to step up and get some quality reps for us as we move forward.
These are OTAs. Okay, he's going to be ready for training camp, fine, but it just kind of feeds into the storyline that, hey, good on the Bills picking him up 1 year, but if you're banking on Joey Bosa to be anything that of the promise, let's say, of Von Miller when you brought him in, I mean, if you get anything out of Joey Bosa this year, that'll be a surprise. I would even say, Danger, that his job isn't safe on this team, I would say. He's got to at least show something.
I think how Bosa does in Buffalo will be determined by how much tolerance McDermott has for a guy who's shown through his career that he's not always going to be available. Now, last year, he played 14 games for the Chargers, but he missed 20 games over the previous 2 seasons. He missed multiple games in 3 of his other 6 seasons. This was the red flag on Joey Bosa when the Bills signed. It was like, hey, fine, you signed this veteran who can get after the quarterback, who's a specimen, but can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field. And we hear these guys say it all the time. Your best ability is availability. He said it in that clip, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to be available. So that's a setback for Joey Bosa. But I have a feeling that when we get to the regular season, we're not going to remember that he didn't participate in OTAs. It's probably going to be a giant Francesa. I don't know that this is a big deal unless it's something that's lingering through camp and he misses significant time during training camp. Then I think we've got something. Now you got a guy who just isn't available and isn't putting in the reps, and we've seen how that goes with veteran players with this Bills team. It doesn't matter if you're a vet or if you're a rookie. If you're not out there, if you're not able to compete, you're not going to get that shake.
And the other storyline, which we predicted, everyone predicted, and it always comes with a disclaimer that this isn't mandatory, but you did not have James Cook at practice today.
Correct. They're in communication apparently, or they've talked. Fine. He doesn't have to be there. There's a bunch of star players around the NFL that aren't at OTAs. Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, not at Falcons OTAs. Terry McLaurin isn't with the Commanders. TJ Watt angling for a new deal. Like, this is just voluntary.
2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today is minicamp that is mandatory, and that's when, okay, if he's not there and now you're getting fined and now this might kind of bleed over into Fisher time, you might say, oh, who cares as long as he's there week one. I would want James Cook by the time you get to Fisher because, well, coincidentally, like what you see with Joey Bosa, I don't want any soft tissue issues with my running back.
Sean McDermott earlier on the goals of his team's organized team activities.
Really, our goal overall is to take it one day at a time right now and then just continue to find out who we are. I say this every offseason, but the team has got to get connected, and that means guys spending time together, getting to know one another. That's a big part of who we are, but an important part of who we are because it's hard to do that once adversity hits. It's hard to do that in the middle of the season when we say, hey, all right, we're going to have a kumbaya meeting and everyone's going to sit down and air our grievances and get to know one another and go to dinner. You can't do that then. You got to do it now. And so these guys being here is important because it offers them the opportunity to go play golf, go bowl, go to dinner, whatever the outing might be. And that's how you get to know one another and your new teammates in particular. And then beyond that, it's them getting on board with the techniques, the fundamentals, situationally, how we want to play the game. And so that's important as well this time of year.
I'm a big fan of shared experiences. I think you have shared experiences, you develop a foundation of trust, you develop a good relationship, a good camaraderie. So I kind of like everything he's saying there. I think really on the field, everything kind of looks the same, whether you're talking about what it looks like now versus what it'll look like later this summer at training camp. But it's those shared experiences that they'll get through OTAs and through training camp that I think really develop a team chemistry, a team camaraderie.
He's done a good job of this, and notice how it starts now where you could say, well, why not wait till you actually get to training camp and you have the full 90 there. He did bring this up today, too, that's going to be a little bit different when you're doing these shared experiences, and there's going to be a camera in your face for the first time.
Right.
And McDermott today going out of his way to, just say nice things. I mean, it's a partner of the NFL, and they're not going to downplay it. Now it's an honor for the Bills to be chosen by Hard Knocks, but saying the right things, but you better believe that, what they really feel is something different.
Can I share what I felt was his most interesting comment from today before we talked to Matt Perino, because I don't know that I want to bring it up to Matt Perino?
Okay.
The tush push, because he was asked about it. And
well, time out. If you realize last Tuesday, I asked Matt Perino because the vote was coming up the next day. Tell me about the tush push. I'm tired of talking about the tush push.
Tired of it.
Yeah,
so
we
won't necessarily. Well, maybe I'll ask. Maybe I'll poke the bear a little bit when Perino joins us here in a couple minutes. But for a team that voted for the proposal to ban the tush push, for a head coach who's on the competition committee that kind of clumsily through the beginning of the offseason talked about, player safety as the reason why they would be in favor of a ban of the tush push. When asked about it today, his quote, "We'll play within the rules. The rules have now been set, so we always do our best to play within the rules and the rules that have been set up for us." This is the Bills basically being disingenuous. Sean McDermott being But then I think, okay, what were the factors of him being disingenuous through the preseason and talking about players? Like, who got to him? And it's so clear. Like, Roger Goodell just has his fingers in a little bit of everything. And maybe it was Goodell through Terry and Terry to McDermott. Like, hey, we want this out of the game. You're on the competition committee. You have to come up with some talking points here, some reasons to build steam to get this play out of the game. Meanwhile, the Bills, if they're smart, will continue to use the play that they were had a lot of success using last season with their 250-pound, 6'4" quarterback.
What, are we a believer that honesty is the best policy? I am. I mean, if you were just honest and upfront, then said, hey, the tush push, it's not aesthetically pleasing. Our TV partners might not want this. We want more runs. We want more passing. We don't want something that looks like this.
Sure.
If they had just said that, would the public have been more on the side? Because what sent us sideways, the comments about player safety, it's like, wait a second, that's...
McDermott doubled down, and the way he said it today, I actually don't think this is disingenuous. I think everything that happened this offseason leading up to the vote was disingenuous by the Bills. But for him to say today, I feel like where I'm most concerned is, even though there's not significant data out there to this point, my concern is the health and safety of players first and foremost. So that's an acknowledgement that, hey, I know there's not data on this, but I'm still concerned that a player could get really injured on this play. And if you're running it the way the Bills run it last year, your concern is that Josh Allen is going to get hurt on a sneak or on a tush push the way Patrick Mahomes did, several years ago, to the point where the Chiefs don't even entertain a quarterback sneak.
Right. So don't do it. Would we be all – I mean, I'm asking everyone honestly. Tie game against pick an opponent, the Bengals. And actually, no, that's not a good scenario. The Bills are down by 3, and the Bills have the ball, and they're faced with a 3rd and 1. Like, where is the line when you're going to use Josh Allen when it comes to the QB sneak? You're still using him, but I would highly advise don't press your luck with this danger. Honestly, find some different ways to get that first down.
I think you have to pick and choose your battles. I think you have to find the opportunities where the mismatches exist. They did not exist when you have Chris Jones on the other side of the line, right? We saw the Chiefs kind of stuff the Bills when it mattered most with that play. But for the most part, through the course of the season, the Bills were able to exploit those matchups, get the yardage that they needed when they called that play. They ran it as effectively, almost as effectively as Philadelphia did. And Philadelphia is going to continue to run it until somebody can show that they can stop it. And I would anticipate that the Bills would do the same thing, exploit matchups where they can, just make sure like, hey, this isn't a great matchup for our guys, and we're probably, better served being a little bit more creative here on a short yardage situation. But to hear McDermott today say that they're going to play within the framework of the rules, I'm like, okay, so everything this offseason felt a little disingenuous by the Buffalo Bills, from McDermott's comments during the offseason to the team voting. The only AFC East team, I might add, voting to get the play out of the game. The Jets, Dolphins, Patriots all have no problem with the play being in the game. The Bills wanted that play out of the game.
Yeah, well, and then it's also a lot of teams that are on the Eagles' schedule, too. So, and the Bills are on the Eagles' schedule, where the Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins are not.
Sure. Okay, we got that out of the way, so we don't have to ask Perino.
No, we don't. Yeah, I don't. Listen, we want
to make our guest upset because he's tired of talking about the tush push. There was another bit of news not related to OTAs, but related to the Buffalo Bills, and Pete Goelli sharing some of this with the Buffalo News, that the Bills have now sold more than 25,000 PSLs for the new stadium. 80% of Bills season ticket holders have signed up for their PSLs, and that the Bills are now on pace, according to Goelli, on pace to sell out the new building.
I think part of this comes with the disclaimer, okay, because it sounds like when you hear this, oh my gosh, they're pacing down. This is on purpose. If you are a Bills season ticket holder right now and you haven't been approached for the PSL, well, that's because you're buying like the 300 level or the rock pile. They're really not interested in your whatever it's going to cost, the $1,500. They're trying to make sure that all the premium stuff is sold out first. And then, hey, if you're not willing to make that investment in the premium, then you're going to take your chances.
They're fishing for whales, not guppies.
No.
And eventually
they got you, yes.
Yeah,
so
eventually they'll have plenty of guppies sitting in seats. But right now they're still trying to cash in on some of those whales. And look, 25,000 is a lot more than I thought. Actually, was I didn't realize they were that high as far as how many have been sold up to this point. Hearing Goelli confidently say that they're on pace to sell out the building, I think that's encouraging. That was a story that I was very intrigued by, just from hearing the personal stories, both for and against the PSLs that we've heard from fans from the moment that they went on sale.
It's somebody has done, because the thing that's unsettling about this is just how they're not being transparent when it comes to this, and you have to like sign right here on the dotted line. Well, in this day and age, there's a Facebook group, and if you can go find it, and the Facebook group will tell you exactly here are the prices that people are paying, and everybody's kind of contributing to this. And the thing is, you see danger like, well, basically from the 10-yard line to the outside, all on the upper, that hasn't been touched yet. So, again, if you're somebody that I'd like to buy season tickets, but I only want to pay the $1,500 or the $2,000 PSL, which, look, although it's not great, but it's certainly not what we're talking about down low. They're going to be just fine. Like you said, there'll be plenty of fish out there.
Matt Perino covers the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. He was at Bills practice today. Organized team activities underway. We'll talk about the absence of James Cook, the injury to Joey Bosa, and some of the comments made by head coach Sean McDermott today with Matt Perino next on The Fan.
As thrilling as a game-winning touchdown. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Football in Orchard Park. OTAs with the Buffalo Bills today. Joey Bosa with a soft tissue injury that will keep him out until training camp. Also not in attendance today, running back James Cook. Here's head coach Sean McDermott.
Yeah, we're staying in touch like you'd expect a player and a coach to do. So, James will be here when he's ready to be here, and we move forward.
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast scheduled to join us next year in the Sports Bar. Amerks players having their exit interviews today. We'll talk one last time with head coach Mike Leone next hour. Game 4 tonight, the New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers, with Indiana leading that best-of-7, 2-1. Wings are off today. Columbus, the opponent tomorrow morning. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Are you trying to walk through the door of, hey, getting closer and closer to success, or are you trying to walk through the door every morning of fear of failure, right? So we choose to walk through the door of, hey, we try and move ourselves closer and closer every day to being successful as an individual, team, and organization. So that's the approach that we take.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott today. Buffalo Bills OTAs underway. Hard knock cameras are going to be at St. John Fisher University. And Coach talking about the honor of being selected by the NFL. I don't know if he's saying that behind closed doors, but he's giving us that today. And we got Matt Perino covering the team for the Syracuse Post-Standard joining us now from Orchard Park. Look, I'm curious, Matt, was there any surprise to OTAs today? Because Bosa being injured doesn't feel like a surprise. James Cook not being there doesn't feel like a surprise. Was there anything there that was surprising to you?
Yeah, the reactions to the Bosa news were about as expected as it gets, because this was the big thing, that when they signed him, how long can you go with him while keeping him healthy? And for it to happen before we even get a chance to kind of chronicle him on the practice field, I think is, kind of funny. The James Cook piece of it, it's not surprising. And, hearing from Deion Dawkins after practice, it's not something that resonates inside the building as I think it does as much outside the building. Something like business is going to be the business part. He mentioned that it's a voluntary portion, and that a lot of times across the league when there's contract things that come up, players choose to go that route. And so for inside the building, he said it's all still love. It is a process, right? Like, it is something that, if you want a new deal and the two sides aren't coming to any kind of agreement, there's going to be parts of it where you choose to make your statements. And, James is making that statement right now. When it doesn't, to me, progress to like a legitimate story until mandatory minicamp, right. And if he's not there for that.
Yeah, back to Bosa here for a second. Matt, what do you think is – because I think there's a variance here on what to expect from Joey Bosa. Like, we're all hoping that he'll be this year's version of Leonard Floyd, somebody who comes in, does a great job, and maybe he hits a big just kind of a one-year layover here in Buffalo, and maybe it would be longer. But then – gosh, if this kind of goes on, and this is where this is, a little above my head when it comes to void years and everything like that, because you hear the guaranteed money for Joey Bosa, or is that something you think they could wiggle out of? Do you think Joey Bosa, worst case scenario, he does not have a spot guaranteed on this roster?
No, I think the spot is probably pretty guaranteed unless something injury related comes up that's completely out of the realm. Like, I think this is a good reminder for the Bills that something that we've talked about plenty of times this offseason is that you have to devise the plan for this defensive line to keep Joey Bosa fresh and to try to avoid some of the issues that have popped up for him over the past. You need him for January and February. And so if that means, rostering an extra defensive lineman so you don't have to kind of put the wear and tear on this guy that will, keep you from having him available, to me, that's the biggest piece. But in terms of the upside as a pass rusher, I still think that you're buying in on that for when it matters most. It's just devising this plan. I mean, all eyes are on Will Greenberg, right? Like, how can he, in his first year as a strength and conditioning coach, put him in a position to play as many games for the Bills as he can?
So, Matt, who stands to benefit the most here during the OTAs with Bosa's absence here heading into St. John Fisher?
I think it's really, really good reps for Michael Hoyt and Landon Jackson, who I'm writing about right now in my observation. Thought he was one of the most impressive people on the field today. Obviously, we can't get into where guys play, what team they play on, and all that kind of stuff. But that's part of the observation, is taking it with a grain of salt here and there. They're not in pads. Who they're going up against it's really important. But Jackson had a rep today against Richard Garage, who, a former undrafted lineman who's been kind of hanging around in the Bills practice squad for a couple of years. And he's going into his third season. He's almost achieved veteran status. Landon Jackson, just on one play today, it was teach tape for how you want an edge rusher to perform. The get off, putting the lineman in conflict immediately, and then turning that into a bulldozer of a finish. It was almost every piece of a win on a rep that you'd want from a young player. And then I thought TJ Sanders, obviously not an edge rusher, but he had a really nice day too. There was one play where he got into the backfield so quick and batted down a pass as Mike White tried to kind of rush things along a little bit to avoid the pressure. So some of the things that we heard about these two guys, flashed out there a little bit on day one. Again, no pads.
Yeah, we're talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, the Shout podcast. One thing that was different today, new this year, what's it like having Vinsanity around? What was that like, having Vince Carter, on the premise?
So cool, man. Like, just we got through a 20-minute press conference with Sean, and I'm just like, is it kind of surreal to just do this whole thing? And then, oh, by the way, basketball royalty is just standing there off to the side watching you do your thing. And, he said it was obviously cool to have him around. And after practice, you see all these players just going up to him just to, chop it up with him for a few minutes. That's a guy that you want to talk about, even more so than what he accomplished as a player, like the height of fame that Vince Carter achieved in his career. I think you can make the argument that after LeBron James and Michael Jordan, probably Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter is like the most famous basketball player. Like that era when he was the dunk champion in the NBA, like I'll never forget, I think it was the 2000 dunk contest. I still talk to friends about that all these years later. He was, I know he didn't have the team success, but he was an icon, like for a stretch of time there. So it's cool. Anytime, like my guy growing up was Tracy McGrady, actually. So it's cool for me that he's part of that ownership group. I still haven't had a chance to talk to him, but I'd probably fanboy out a little bit. That's one of the one guys in sports that I think, fanboy out a little bit over.
Buddy, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm treading lightly as I'm doing it. No. I'm only bringing it up because I don't know if you gave daggers to whoever asked the question about the rule proposal that did not go through to ban the tush push from the NFL. I found McDermott's comments, now in retrospect, his comments today, basically saying, hey, it's a rule. We're going to play within the framework of the rule. So everything that was said up until today feels very disingenuous by the organization.
Because he's going to still run the tush push,
right,
even though he's against it?
Right.
Yeah, but they're also trying to win. So if it's something that you do well and it's you're able to do it, and it also comes down, it's not just about what Sean McDermott wants. Like, what does Joe Brady want? What does Joe Brady believe? How does Josh Allen feel about it, which I think is the most important commentary on the play that I'd be interested in. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's commented publicly on it. So maybe we'll get a chance to talk to him over the next couple of weeks. But I think that's fair too. Like, why not run it, I guess, right? If you don't feel like it's safe, even if it does give you a competitive advantage. And then there's also the piece of it, how much of a competitive advantage does it give you when you run it 4 straight times in the biggest game of the season and, it's not successful. So that's fair.
Well, one thing I think maybe they're just putting on a good face here. Maybe it's a little disingenuous, but are you believing that the Bills are actually excited to be on Hard Knocks here, Matt? I mean, it's exciting for Bills fans. We all can agree, but for an organization that, heck, you can't even tell us where, where Landon Jackson was lining up today. Those are the rules here in the spring. But how do you think, in what ways? That's part one here. Like, the Bill, their thoughts on this, and then part two of the question: in what ways do you think? And maybe the answer is not at all, but like, how might we see camp be different this year with the cameras, everybody following everybody around?
Oh, I think it'll be different, and I actually don't think Sean's going to have a huge problem with it. I got the sense listening to talk about it today, the league probably called them up and said, "Listen, you have very much control over what gets out there. There's not going to be something that gets out that's going to be a competitive disadvantage," because like. In his comments, didn't he say, like, oh, well, whatever you get to see, it's an inside look, but it's an inside look like maybe 20% or 15% or whatever the number that he put on it. You're not really going to get the look in that I think that, we've come to expect of this show because of how it's been since its inception. I think over the years we haven't seen as much. I thought last year to me, watching the Bears season, the thing that really stood out was how poorly Eberflus came across, especially in some of those meetings with Caleb Williams. So I wonder if this is like, maybe Sean McDermott is so confident in his ability and the way that he runs things because, listen, at every juncture of his career here, I do think that the majority of the players have stood up to defend him when he's been criticized. Josh more than anybody else. Like I remember during the whole Ty Dunn story and some of the stuff that came out about that, a lot of the players went to bat for him. And I think that a lot of that comes from his ability to let them be who they are. I think his demeanor in a lot of these meetings. And I think maybe some of that will come out. And I also think, like, they have some characters on this team that they can play up on this show. Deion Dawkins being the most of that. And Sean in these meetings over the years, he's had his own growth process in that department. Like, the dad joke Fridays and all the stuff that we talked about last year and his evolution. So I think at the end of the day, this is a team with a lot of characters on it that I think will play pretty well. And it's a really important training camp and lead up to an important season where expectations are at an all-time high, and that's going to be an interesting storyline to track. Like, how do the Bills keep the expectations from creeping back into their building because they love playing that underdog role? They're not. Like, I mean, they have the third-best Super Bowl odds, and they have the reigning MVP. You can't really run away from those anymore.
One of those characters you just mentioned, Deion Dawkins, since the last time we spoke, the NFL announced the Protector of the Year award going to be announced at NFL Honors, and we know how important that was to Deion Dawkins, how vocal he was that there should be an award for offensive linemen. Did he speak on that at all, Matt?
He did. He talked about the process and the fact that it hasn't been this wasn't like a one-off, like he said it on a radio show or a podcast, and then, a couple months later, the NFL rolled it out. This is something that he's been advocating for like 3 years, like conversations with members of the league, members of the Players Association, thinking through the different variations of how this will work and the criteria for which it will be judged. This is something that he's had a lot of input into and he's really proud of and excited about because it's hard to change football was one of the quotes that he used. And I think that when you look back at the inception of this of this award, who knows? Maybe someday down the road they'll honor him and maybe name the award after him or something. I don't know. Like I don't know if he'll have the kind of career that will warrant that, but at the same time, to be able to do the groundwork for it and just the imprint that he's left on the game. I don't know if any offensive lineman is as well known around NFL circles as Deion Dawkins. So it's pretty cool.
Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse Post Standard, Little League coach, our guest here in the sports bar. Matt, one player that I can't get enough of in terms of, okay, how's he looking? How's he coming along? Ever since that Sean McDermott kind of mentioned him in his season-ending press conference, talking about Keon Coleman. McDermott talked a little bit about Coleman today, and I guess this is the time of year where you're going to say nice things, but just your kind of impressions, what you saw out of Coleman, and guess how big is this year number 2 for the wide receiver?
See, I think that was more than nice things. That was more than pleasantries that Sean said today, because I think a lot of times we ask him about young players like this in this setting, and he reverts back to the coach speak and, like, I've liked some of the things, like a real quick general statement, and then on to, like, the expectations and the fact that you got to prove it every year. And for him to kind of come out and say how proud he is of him for how he showed up and to really prove the fact that he's been working in the offseason, I think the heart-to-heart that they had, whatever the messaging was from the Bills at the end of last season, at least for now, it seems like McDermott's been pleased with the way that message has been received and what you've seen from Coleman. I thought he looked so comfortable out there today. Like, I think, he had a touchdown during team drills, but besides even just the play, it was more so the player, and he just looks so comfortable. Now, they don't have pads on, so, like, you can't take too much from these practice situations, but I think that was high praise for McDermott, who turned up the heat a little bit on Coleman, which is, I think, a little bit uncharacteristic. But I wonder if it comes from knowing the player and the person and knowing what you can say about a guy to motivate a guy. I think Sean does a good job of figuring that out for each individual. And so far, so good. We'll see if that means anything once we get to games.
I think there's a footnote to the Joey Bosa injury as well, and it's a player that, coming into the league, I think we had really high expectations for, to the point where we're wondering, okay, now, we want to see more, and we want to see the continued evolution and growth of Greg Rousseau. We heard from him today after practice as well, Matt, and I think that this is a season where you're committed to him now. He's here. He's not going anywhere. He's getting his. What's the expectation? What's a realistic expectation for Greg Rousseau?
I think the expectation has to start at 10 sacks, right? Like, it's not just about the number, right? Like, it's kind of an arbitrary number. Like, I think people throw that around. But I think if you're winning and impacting things the way that they're paying him to do, you're going to land at that number pretty organically in a 10-game season. And the fact that he has not gotten there yet, I think, I don't want to say it's concerning, but it's something where you're just left wanting more, even though he does have such an impact on their defensive line. And I think with the additions that they made, maybe more so on the interior and what this team can look like as a pass rushing unit on third down now, with true pass rushers at all 4 positions, especially on the second half of the season when they have Hoyt in the mix, who could kind of be a little bit of a, chess piece for McDermott and Bobby Babich. I just think you want more impact plays, splash plays. It's almost like the same conversation we were having around Tremaine Edmonds all those years. Is like this first-round draft pick who is just athletically and physically imposing. You want to see somebody that can impact the games in crucial moments more with tangible results. And so I think they're looking for that. Sean's talked about it. Greg's talked about it. I think he has this line is put together in a way that Greg Rousseau could have an impact.
Last one for me, Matt. Did you line up to be an extra? You know people that lined up to be an extra there in the Hallmark movie.
I can neither confirm nor deny any appearances in any movies.
Well, wait a second. Not an extra. Wait a second. Like, theoretically, let's just say there's the Schmout podcast. Maybe they reached out to somebody there, or like, honestly,
Gino, come on, show some respect to our guest here. The casting crew at the Hallmark Channel probably saw Perino and they started licking their chops. How do we get this guy into this movie?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they did that at all. And listen, I think Sal put out Capaccio. He had a little role there. It's nothing like that, but I do think that we are on the books to get out there for some type of deal. But I think that's as much as I could say. I don't have any more details than that.
I see a Bills insider montage in our future. I see a Bills insider montage in the middle of a Hallmark film, Perine. I see you working, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Sal Capaccio level, but really, at the end of the day, who of us is really Sal Capaccio level?
That's true. What about the PSL sales that we heard from Goelli? 25,000 PSL sold, on pace to sell it out. I mean, I guess that's not a surprise, but you also hear rumblings that there's still a lot of seats available in the new stadium in 2026.
Yeah, and I think the price came dramatically down from what I heard initially. Like, I remember talking to a bunch of season, and this is just conversations that I've had with season ticket holders that I know in my life.
Yeah.
You know, when this process was starting, I remember them saying, "Oh man, I'm hearing the lowest this thing's going to be is like $8,500 a year," and I've heard some people that are getting in at a PSL in the 300s under $1,000. So that's huge, right? Like, that's a huge difference that I think opens up the door for more people to have a chance to buy tickets. But like, listen, they couldn't have orchestrated this whole deal, like the new stadium with PSLs for the seats, at a better time in the organization's history, right? Like, you're in the prime years of Josh Allen. If you have a season ticket, you don't want to lose out on that, I would imagine. And so I think they're going to do better than they probably would have had they done this during the drought era. But yeah, it's always changing, all the conversations I've had, but almost all the people in my life, and I'm talking dozens and dozens of season ticket holders, maybe over 100, that I talk to and have gotten updates from, almost all of them, even the ones that were really on the fence about it, have decided to buy tickets. So I think from the Bills' perspective, they're probably doing pretty well.
Yeah, if this were, like, say, 10 years ago, Matt, it would have been an interesting case study. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout podcast. Tell us what is coming up on both platforms we can go check out this week, Matt.
Yeah, so we're going to do the observation shows today. I also might be doing a podcast with Mr. McDermott tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
So stay tuned for that. I think it was scheduled for like just an interview for a story, but I think we're going to maybe turn it into a podcast too, so we'll see. So you can hang out and look for that. I also have got some other things cooking at the site. And then listen, I've always said, some great listeners of Danger and Battaglia. Chuck just tweeted at me, I know where Danger and Battaglia work if you want to push them. And I've got to tell you, Chuck, hit the DMs, give me the location, because if I get one more push question, buddy,
I
prefaced
it. I know it's a sensitive subject. I prefaced it by warning you. Well, you knew it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, like when I asked you the question last week, and then Dan DeLorean, our fine bounty hunter of audio, put it in the show open the next day. I mean, yeah, we were kind of talking about it. Like, okay, yeah, this is we're beating a dead horse here, Matt.
It's all good. It's that time of the off season, guys. Like, this is what we got to talk about. I just, I don't know, for whatever reason, like, I just don't like this whole idea of just like taking out a play because one or two teams are good at it. Like, the more it's sat with me this off season, the more I've kind of just been, like it just, I don't like talking about it. And then the league did the right thing in the end, and enough teams voted the right way. So we are moving on.
Enjoy the rest of your week, bud. Let's do it again next week.
All right, guys. Take care.
Take care. There's Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, who has maybe the chance here to have McDermott on his pod. I think I'm with him on what Hard Knocks could look like with Sean McDermott. I really don't think McDermott's going to let Hard Knocks do to him what it did to Eberflus or certainly Joe Shane. I think that because they have a little bit of editorial control on what gets out there, and because McDermott feels like he's being more open in the media, like to hear Perino just not say, yeah, it was going to be an interview, but now I think we might just have him on for the podcast. Like, McDermott is he doesn't give you a lot, but he is being more forthright, I think, with Buffalo media.
Do we want McDermott on our show?
I'd love McDermott on our show.
Yeah, like when we get to like camp, and people ask me all the time about this, but he is just so.
He's the one guy we haven't had on.
We've never had him on.
We've had Goelli. We've had Brandon Bean. We've had Josh Allen. We've never had McDermott. And, if there's some kind of I mean, we're broke-ass bitches here in the sports bar. So if it's some kind of financial compensation he's looking for, then he can go ahead and talk to the GR guys because we're not going to pay him to stop by the sports bar. But he did have, earlier today, some glowing comments on Hard Knocks and kind of explained what his vision for the show could be with them following him around during training camp this summer.
I think the selection criteria has changed. I know it has most recently, and to some extent, it's I think a real compliment to them choosing us and selecting our organization. Now that the criteria has changed, you look at it, one of two ways, and it's probably a little bit of both, where you say the opportunity is there for us to, number one, our fans, that they can get an inside look, a little bit of what happens. Is it 100% inside? Maybe not. What percent it is it 10%, 20, 50? Who knows? But, there's a lot that we do that they'll see, which I think is great for the fans. I think there's also just as much that people won't see. And that's true of anyone's process, right? Any great athlete's or team's process. There's a lot that goes on that people don't see in the hidden hours and days. So I think that's important to note. I think the opportunity for us to really be who we are. I mean, a lot of people see us, they show up at our stadium every week and they see us live and they see who we are and how much these guys love each other. Our personality comes out, and I think it'll offer, many a chance to see us kind of beneath the surface as well and see how that rings true day in and day out here.
I think everything you're saying there is I don't think we'll see Sean McDermott's wrestling mats in his basement.
Can I just say I'm surprised? Because if you had asked me, okay, predict what Sean McDermott, you know what, the league asked us to do this, and we'll do it, and that would be that. And he's saying he's welcoming this
he's saying
element
the right things.
in. Yeah, he's saying the right things. Yeah.
As he normally does, he's saying the right things. Sometimes you could tell. I think the conversation around the Bills and the tush-push and McDermott and everything from this offseason, I think that was forced. I think McDermott, quite honestly, is being told.
He got tripped up.
Yeah.
He wasn't with the friendly Western New York media. There was Judy Batista and others like, wait a second, data? What data? Like when he was just pressed a little bit, that made him look bad.
Not entirely bought in on the conversation. Because I imagine most football people, most football guys would view that play as we've viewed it, and a lot of people have viewed it. Oh, you don't like it? Then stop it. If you don't like it, stop it. And to hear Saquon say that the opposers of the play are soft, right? Yeah, you're football guys. You don't like the play, stop the play. And I imagine in his heart that both things can be true. That he is worried about player safety, because who wouldn't be? And he's also a fan of the play and will run the play because it's now within the framework of the NFL's rules. Good conversation there with Matt Perino. Appreciate the report from OTAs, which got underway today in Orchard Park. We will talk to Amerks head coach Mike Leone next hour here in the Sports Bar. We have more on the way next, including, there's another team who opened up their OTAs. And I just love watching the fan base come to grips with what has become of their proud organization.
I thought about this over the week, and I know where you're going to go with this, and I'm going to challenge you on this.
Okay.
I like, honestly, Danger, I think that it's time. They can't be that dumb.
Or can they?
Also, thank you to somebody from the Sports Bar. Now, I don't know if there was non-disclosure agreements.
One of our regulars?
Yeah. Give you a little bit of the plot here and what people had to do for going out and shooting the Hallmark movie.
You're going to give spoilers to the Hallmark movie?
Why not?
I mean, I'm not going to watch
it. Is the Hallmark police going to come over and say,
I'm not watching it.
This is I feel like I'm testing a boundary here. Like,
spoil away as far as I'm concerned, Gino. We'll get to that. And Amerks head coach Mike Leone. All coming up in the next half hour here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on The Fan.
WROC-AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Looking a little like football today in Orchard Park. OTAs for the Buffalo Bills. Joey Bosa, though, not practicing. He's got a soft tissue injury. Here's head coach Sean McDermott.
It is concerning. Durability, availability are key ties to our roster. And so we basically look ahead in terms of what he's doing now, which is getting himself the treatment that he needs. And he's working hard at it. And that's all that he can control right now. And, we get him back when we get him back, probably at this point, training camp.
Also at today's non-mandatory practice, not at today's practice, running back James Cook. Amherst players cleaning out their lockers, exit interviews today. We will talk one last time with head coach Mike Leone later this hour. Tonight it's Game 4, Knicks and Pacers. Indiana up 2-1. Wings off today. They host Columbus tomorrow morning at 11. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
OTA practices began late this morning, and there was plenty of news.
And real proud of the way that the players have been here from an attendance standpoint and their focus to this point as well. So a lot of good work in the weight room, a lot of good work in the training room, getting our guys stronger, getting our guys faster, and getting on the field today.
I hope you'll all be proud of this Rochester Americans team because they played so well this year for being such a young squad. They just did an outstanding job.
Mike Danger.
You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Feels good to be back, Gene, not gonna lie.
We're here.
Gene Battaglia.
People would tune in from our show just to hear me spinning the tunes.
Thunder win in Minnesota, 128-126. Thunder are one win away from a trip to the NBA Finals.
Pacers guard Aaron Nesmith expected to be a game-time decision for tonight's Game 4 with the Knicks.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
We're back in the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Tuesday that feels like a Monday. Short week in the Sports Bar.
To me, always Memorial Day feels like, okay, May's wrapped up. No, we got a whole nother week of May here.
That's right.
Buddy,
That's right, we do. Memorial Day came early. This year, the weather hasn't really been cooperating. Although yesterday was the day, right?
That was it. Yeah.
I got after it yesterday. I don't know about everybody else, but I felt like simultaneously you could hear lawnmowers, purring, and people out in the yard doing their work, laying down mulch, getting after it. We have to take advantage of the days when we have them, because I don't know what Conhetsko's got going on over there, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be any bright skies here for the next couple of days at least. When are we gonna actually see spring or summer? 1, 2, 3 weeks?
No, Count Hetsko only gets excited when there's disastrous
fear.
Fear.
Yeah.
There's no fear about this weather.
No, you're right.
I'm still waiting for somebody from that station to say, maybe not do that.
Why? Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Why him? All he's been is great.
Yeah.
His whole career in our community. Boy, lots of OTAs opening up and going on now, including the Buffalo Bills. We spent some time last hour talking to Matt Perino, some takeaways from the Buffalo Bills, and really today's practice, no surprises. No James Cook. And Joey Bosa's already injured.
Yeah, there's that. And the soundbite we played for you for McDermott, about Bosa talking about availability and everything else. I asked the question to Matt Perino, wait a second, is his roster spot secured? And it's a contract danger that it's practically guaranteed, but with void years, and again, I don't know how that works, 4 void years on the end of this. Could the Bills actually kind of spread this out and eat the hit, if you will?
I just think to myself, if the guy is healthy for training camp and he somehow finds his way, healthy through the majority of the season, really when you want him at his best is in your big games. You want him against Mahomes. You want him against Lamar. You want him later in the season against Jalen Hurts. You want him healthy in the postseason. I'll take him missing OTAs.
Yeah, we tend to overreact this time of year.
But it's still very on brand for what we know about Joey Bosa.
Yeah, Brad writing in. You can write to us or handle The Fan Rochester. This is actually by Facebook. He wrote in, shocker that Bosa's already hurt. Can the Bills get him to Week 8 and Hoyt and Landon Jackson can take over the rest of the way? Should have signed Leonard Floyd back. I'd say, for what you're saying, I need Joey Bosa when it matters most here.
Yeah, and Jackson, by all accounts, and Perino brought him up specifically, looked fairly impressive today in practice. So there is opportunity there. There's no opportunity lost when you have somebody go down. It's a chance for somebody like him to step up, and by all accounts, he was impressive today, albeit in underwear. So, when they get the pads on, when we get into some game action here later in the summer, we'll get to see a little bit more of what these guys are about. But, it does start to feel a little bit like football when you have reports from practice and players getting injured and surprisingly not being there.
Yeah, and we can't tell you who's practicing where. We are fully back. Maybe you went out over the long weekend to be an extra in the Hallmark movie. Now, full disclosure, I debated doing this. I
know you did. I still don't know why that's an itch you need to scratch.
No, I thought maybe it would be fun for the executive producer and I to go out and, put on Bills gear and pretend we're fans and just get the whole experience. And I can't disclose. You have to trust me. This is a real report because the person told this in confidence because I don't think there was non-disclosures, but they wouldn't want all this stuff out.
Well, I would imagine that if you're an extra, they're not making you sign. You're probably signing a release form or something like that, but not necessarily a binding non-disclosure agreement.
Well, there is a spoiler in here. And so if you are like, Gene, how dare you? Do not give me a spoiler for this holiday movie.
Right. Everybody's excited for this thing, Gene. You're going to give a spoiler now? That's so on brand for you. It's not even June, and you're giving a spoiler for a Christmas movie already.
I think people need to be prepared. And I would just kind of question, when I heard this, I'm like, no, come on. This is, even by our standards, this wouldn't happen. Okay? So the whole process was this. Told the line up at 6 o'clock. You waited in line until 9 o'clock until they actually needed whatever they were, needing to shoot. Went a little long. So finally, and now it's after dark there at Highmark. 9 o'clock, they let you in. Oh, good. The concessions are open. But did you really think they were going to be free concessions?
No.
No, it's free for you to come be an extra where we're not paying you. But, hey, if you want a soda, got to go pay.
Wait, is this the scene where they pay fans $20 an hour to shovel out their seats? Let's make this movie as realistic as possible.
The little mini spoiler, the scoreboard has the Bills beating the Patriots. This is the third quarter, whatever this was, when they're shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And the extras are told, okay, we're going to have you cheer this way and cheer that way and boo and do all the stuff. So it's very choreographed. But then, again, this is the closest thing that happens for the extras to doing any actual acting because, right there in the middle of the crowd, a woman goes into labor. I'm not talking for real, but I'm saying this is part of the
acting.
Plot. Acting. Okay, woman goes into labor. Okay, let's just, if a woman's going into labor and they write it into the movie, this is like somebody, the significant other of a player, right? And then the player's going to run up into the stands, right?
Oh, it's got to be something
it's got to be something like that. Our anonymous reporter from the Flower City, by the way, got home at 3 a.m.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? That's me acting as if I was in labor.
I got that. Thank you. There's
Hallmark, you can have that line for free. I don't know if you wrote that into the script or not, but you can have that one for free. That's courtesy of your pal Danger.
If you're a pregnant woman, you're not going to a Bills game, right? Or at what point you're like, nah, I'm not doing this. That would be like the last place you would want to go.
I think that there are fans that would go. I think that if there, I promise you, at every game there's at least one pregnant Bills fan.
Can you imagine, if
not multiple,
if there was a pregnant Bills fan that actually gave birth at the stadium, we would love that child forever. It would be like, oh my gosh, it wouldn't be the woman. It would be like, no, the mafia, we gave birth to this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the love child of some player on the roster that nobody is acknowledging, but that child will be born into Bills Mafia and forever cherished for being born at the stadium.
Listen, if you went to this, 866-4FAN, 866-4326, as far as I know, there's no non-disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, look, 3 hours to wait in line. I mean, that you're infringing on Disney territory there, waiting for a ride at a theme park. And I imagine if you're getting home at 3 a.m., I've been home late from concerts in Buffalo or Darien Lake, where you're getting home that late at night. I mean, it probably felt similar to that. It's just something my old ass isn't really willing to do that much anymore. Like, oh, God, I'm not going to get home until 3. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, they were smart. They knew, all right, next day's Sunday. Who's working on the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, that's good. And you had to wait until it gets dark. I'm sure this is a night game that they're filming, so wait until it gets fully dark in the stadium and fill it up with as many extras as you can. We'll talk about OTAs for the Bills. I love what we're seeing, the OTA footage out of Pittsburgh. All the locals beginning to sell themselves on the positives of Mason Rudolph. QB1 right now. Aaron Rodgers seems to be talking more about retirement and legacy in recent weeks than chomping at the bit to latch on to the Steelers, although he did give a little bit of a tease here late last week.
Will Aaron Rodgers ever go to the Bears?
Oh, boy. Security, can we get her out of here? I need some security. Security,
can you take it easy on her on this one?
No, but I believe there's a team that might play in Chicago this year.
Let's go!
On a road trip. I don't know. I'm not sure. Got to check it out.
Are you speaking in code?
I love Chicago, though. Way more than they love me. It's been a great relationship, all one way.
Would you ever consider playing for the Saints?
And then he goes on to ask him about the Saints, and he wants nothing to do with the Saints.
Right. I can't see myself living in Louisiana.
Right. Now, the Steeler fans are coming to grips with there is a real possibility that Mason Rudolph is still the quarterback one to start the season. What Rodgers is saying there is that the Steelers do travel to Chicago this year, but the Steelers right now would appear as if they're willing to wait until September to sign Rodgers. Although Rudolph is getting all the first-team reps and he's talking to the reporters. Can Rudolph be, my question is, and I can't bring myself to this, but could he be this season's Sam Darnold? Could he be Geno Smith? I don't see it. That's, to me, is a pipe dream. He's had his chances. Even with this team, he's just not good enough. And I believe that they'd be better served pitting him up against Will Howard in a training camp battle, provided Rodgers ends up retiring rather than signing.
So I think you're zigging. I think everybody's zigging. I'm going to zag.
What do you mean?
Are the Steelers that inept? Are they that dumb? I'm not going to, like Mason Rudolph, no. I think that you got to trot somebody out there. Okay, there he is. They're waiting for Rodgers. They're looking at this situation and saying, we had piss poor quality at quarterback. If we just had a half step above, and if Aaron Rodgers kind of going through this whole 2-year jet debacle, poor coaching, poor everything else, we're going to put him into our system here. They think this is going to work. No one is exploring, could it actually work? We're just kind of writing this all off like, we hate Aaron Rodgers. He's an a-hole. He's so arrogant. Why did Pittsburgh sign up for this? Are they stupid? Are they that stupid, Danger?
I would say they're arrogant. And we know Arthur Smith is arrogant, the offensive coordinator, right? I don't know how involved Tomlin is. I mean, Tomlin's show, so he's overseeing everything. But I know he's, over the course of his time as coach there, he's delegated offensive responsibilities to the OC. The OC's running things, whether it's Matt Canada or Arthur Smith, Bruce Arians, whoever it is, he kind of gives them the keys to the car and lets them go. And I'm sure he has input, but we know how arrogant Arthur Smith is. And I am of the belief that Arthur Smith believes he can make it work with anybody. He can make it work with somebody who can play in his system.
Right.
That this is about my system, and I have a quarterback, even though it's Mason Rudolph, and he's not the most talented guy out there, he knows how to execute within my system. And Aaron Rodgers is just a wrench in the works at that point because Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and say, your system sucks. Let me go out and draw some plays in the dirt, get some guys open, and improvise like I've done my entire career. I don't think that's going to fly. I feel more and more like – and when you hear Rodgers speaking now, he's talking more about retirement things. Are they going to retire my number in Green Bay? Maybe. Yeah. Am I going to sign a one-day contract? What's the point? Like – the guy feels to me like he's already set himself up for life after football. He's not in a rush to go back, with the Steelers probably offering far under the $10 million for 1 year that he would play for.
Well, let's get right out of the gate here, okay? The Steelers against the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Pittsburgh gets a W. That's in New York, by the way. Seahawks having to go across. Okay. I'm bending here a little bit, but I think the Steelers could get that done too. Steelers in New England, why not? Like, okay, home against Minnesota, probably not. Home against the Browns, sure. I could see them going 4-1 here to start right out the gate.
Yeah, they always start off hot.
Right, but then that's all you need here, with this team and the quarterback and everybody kind of turn around. Like, they didn't have anything close to that with the Jets. I'm just trying to hop inside the mind here of a Steeler executive why they think this could actually work.
Arrogance. No, you mean how Mason Rudolph can work?
No, I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think that you got to trot somebody out there. Mason Rudolph is the guy they're trotting out. By the way, when did he grow that He looks like a new man out there.
That's right.
Mustache, long
He's got
hair.
QB1 swag all of a sudden. He knows. This is my team now, baby. I'm back. I am back, and I'm here to claim QB1.
I that vision of Myles Garrett taking his helmet and this clean-shaven Mason Rudolph already.
Baby-faced Mason Rudolph getting clubbed in the head with a helmet versus what he looks like today. He looks like a 70s action film actor. He's got the thick mustache, the longer hair. He's got quarterback one energy, Gino. I don't think they need Aaron Rodgers. I think they're preparing for life without Aaron Rodgers. Well, I know they are preparing for life without Aaron Rodgers because he's not there. And he's probably not going to be there until a few days before they actually feel like they can sign him if they want to sign him. But at that point, hey, you didn't want to be here. Why are we spending $10 million on you? You're not even giving us a full season. You're giving us your schedule, not our schedule. I don't think it flies in Pittsburgh. I think they are so arrogant, they won't get out of their way, and they will try to make it work with some combination of, and who knows, Kirk Cousins isn't at Falcons OTAs today either.
That's also interesting, right? Because we can talk about James Cook, and I think the majority of Bills fans understand the score. These guys put their bodies on the line. If James Cook wants a new contract, he deserves, to at least have that audience. No one's going to fault him, right? Kirk Cousins has made the second most money in the NFL since what is the year? I forget. But since Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you are getting paid $180 million by the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, you're a backup. Boo-hoo. Then play better. Get your butt to camp.
He's already made it clear he don't want to play in Atlanta this year.
Well, too bad. Yeah. Then get back the money.
Be great. That remains unresolved, and who knows where or how that ends up here as the summer progresses. We got to shift gears and talk some Rochester Americans hockey. Sadly, the season came to an end Sunday evening in Laval, with Laval taking the series from Rochester 3-2 after beating the Amherst 5-0 in what would be their final game of the season. First-year Amherst head coach Mike Leone joins us with his thoughts next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports update.
Bills OTAs today. James Cook, the running back, no surprise, looking for a new contract. He was not in attendance. Here's head coach Sean McDermott.
Yeah, we're staying in touch, like you'd expect a player and a coach to do. So, James will be here when he's ready to be here, and we move forward.
Joey Bosa with a soft tissue injury that will keep him out until training camp. Amerks players having their exit interviews today. Lucas Rushek leaving the organization, leaving the country. He's going to go play in Sweden. Scheduled to talk to head coach Mike Leone coming up next year in the Sports Bar. New York Knicks looking to even up their best of 7 against Indiana tonight. Game 4, Indiana up 2-1. Rochester Red Wings are off today on a Tuesday. They host Columbus tomorrow morning at 11. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Me being first-year captain and Leo being first-year head coach, I think we leaned on each other quite a bit just to, obviously going through it together as first-timers. I thought he did a great job with the group. He lets us, be ourselves and play free. He leans on his leaders to lead, and I thought that we had a really good relationship, and I thought he did a really good job as first year.
There's Amerks captain Mason Jobst. End of season for the Rochester Americans. Unfortunately, it ended Sunday evening in Laval. That North Division final series coming to a close, 5-0 loss. And the Rocket advanced to take on the Charlotte Checkers after dispatching the Amerks 3-2 in the best of 5 series.
Yeah, and Mike Leone, we're efforting, as we would say as a radio word. So disappointing, Game 5. Just to kind of go sideways like that. But the reality in this series is, Danger, that Laval was the better team. And had not Laval did this monkey business with the goaltenders, that might have been over in 4. The idea that, we're a developmental league and we got to develop and we got to check our guys out. Why didn't you start Primo in Game 4? Hey, it was to the Amerks' benefit. And certainly maybe the Amerks win that game anyways, but Fowler got yanked in that game. So the idea of the rotating goaltenders, when you clearly have one guy who's NHL ready in Caden Primo and another guy who was really good in college, but then again, he's really good in college. You want to put the best on the ice to win. I think that, that worked in the Amerks' favor there, certainly in Game 4.
Yeah, Primo had the Amerks number, really the whole league's number all season long, just a historic season for the Rockets. Netminder there. Now they go to Charlotte, take on the Checkers in the Eastern Conference Final. I guess we'll keep a side eye to that and look ahead towards next season. And just hearing Captain Mason Jobst there talking about the relationship he has with Coach Leo, you get the sense that they're going to try and keep that formula together. At minimum, you bring back a lot of the same core guys and continue to grow some of the youth on this team. But I think ultimately when you talk about the difference between Laval and Rochester, it's that, right? It's youth versus experience. And even though a lot of the guys playing for the Amerks have gained some of that experience over the course of their time here and have been in the postseason now multiple years, they're still young. And I know that there's fans that are going to roll their eyes and say, okay, yeah, we hear this all the time. Do you need more grit? Do you need more veteran guys? Do you need Well, yeah, I think if you want to win at the AHL level, they're trying to win at the AHL level while also developing these guys. And for it being what it is, I think the Amerks are one hell of a product. And they've done a great job in getting these guys, not just to be great professionals here at the AHL level, but many of them will also be a success at the NHL level.
5 first-round picks were on this roster from Buffalo. Yeah. 5. One I can tell you for sure ain't going to be here. Yuri Kulik, okay, that's it. He's a Sabre.
That will be it.
Bye-bye. On the other end, Ryan Johnson, dude, looking at my watch. Okay, buddy, you need more here.
Opportunity is there.
Yeah, you got to show something next year. You're not going to be up in Buffalo. The one I'm kind of curious about is Rosane. Rosane is a guy, Danger, that if he shows up in September at Harbor Center and does some things, maybe he sticks. but I see him, hey, you're going to start back in Rochester. That just a prediction, and how will you take to that?
There's a lot of chatter around the NHL with 4 teams still playing meaningful hockey, but the rest of the league kind of in off-season mode and working on trades. J.J. Peterka is the name that I keep hearing being thrown around for the Sabres as far as a deal, and what does that look like, and what do the Sabres get in return? They don't need more prospects, obviously. I think that has a big part in what Roseanne looks like next September when they're trying to, figure out who's playing where. But it would certainly be great to have somebody like that back with the Rochester Americans, have a little bit of extra firepower there offensively. And who else do we learn? Rushek is
he's in the Swedish Hockey League, so he's gone altogether. So a 6th-round pick from the Sabres 2019, and boy, oh boy, I thought he was fantastic this playoff run. So, but he's probably looking at this danger and, all right, am I really going to break through? He did get a little time up in Buffalo, but all right, I can just take the route here, make more money, go back overseas.
Do we see Devin Levi back in Rochester next year? That's the question. And for me, I say yes.
Well, I went on Jeremy White's show, got the invite on Friday before Memorial Day, and I could tell, like, right at the beginning, and he read the tweet, and I got to live by the tweet, right? It said, hey, Buffalo, he's ready, enjoy.
What more do you need to see?
What more do you need to see? And I'm not going to back off that, where, like, if Levi starts in Rochester, that's because the Sabres have signed a veteran goalie, kind of like how they did with Comrie, and you're going to have UPL. And then, UPL is a whole different conversation. But,
right. I wonder what that looks like. Again, when the Sabres, get through the offseason, is UPL still on the squad? I bet you he is. And if he is, my guess is it's UPL and a veteran alongside him, much like it was this year, with Levi still marinating here and getting more reps and getting better in Rochester. Because I don't know what the benefit is of rushing any of these guys up. You've got so many prospects, and you're so deep with guys that were former first-round picks that are playing here that can come up when the time is right. So Devin Levi, for me, is somebody that I would hope we get to see more of in Rochester. I'm not going to hold my breath, but that's my hope at least. Amerks head coach Mike Leone joining us one last time. And Coach, I know that the outcome wasn't what we wanted on Sunday, but I'll start by saying this season has been an absolute treat. You and the team should be held in high regard. I know that this was an unbelievable challenge for you, your first year coaching in the AHL, and I wanted to congratulate you on what I think was a good first season for you, Coach.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the support. I thought the same thing. I thought it was a great season. Like, we just got beat by a really good team, and they, to force a Game 5, and they were probably played the best game they played all season in Game 5, and credit to them. They were finished this season, with the best team in the league, and they showed it in the game, and I just really appreciated the fight in the guys. Game 2, Game 4 on the brink of season over, and we push it to Game 5, and credit to them. And just some of our guys, like, I know a lot of people were probably wondering, but, Roos was playing, Roos was playing with, sorry, boys, I was saying bye to some people, but Roos was playing on a torn meniscus, being on one knee, gutted it out. Yabo, shoulder came out. Cozy had a concussion. And this is not by any excuse, just to speak of the group of, fought to the end. And it was just, a tough way to go out, but really proud of the guys in the season. And, having 40 wins is really difficult in our league. And just a lot of great things that happened this year, and the fans, the whole thing. It was an amazing year. I'm thrilled to be here, and it was it was awesome.
Mike, you're and thank you for all your time this year, and you're doing your exit interviews with your players today. And if somebody was going to give you an exit interview, being year number one, what did you learn here your first year as a head coach at the professional level, and what will you be looking to improve? I'm assuming you're back next year, Coach?
Yeah, I'll be back. I'm not going anywhere. I love it here. I just think of just how hard the league is. I think that's the one thing, like, I just realized, like, any given night, there's not too much. I think once you get to this point when when you're down to the final 8, those teams have kind of separated themselves. But just the course of the season, how hard the league is every single night and playing our division, and that's probably the one thing. Just managing people. I think that you always hear about it, but dealing with your staff was my first time. Everybody was here before, so just a new, especially with our hockey staff, figure out what Vinny was really good at and empower him and Pacer. And there's always, if you're a competitive person and you want to win, you're always going to have doubt. Not that I doubted myself, but I was a really young coach. I only had 2 years of coaching experience, and a lot of the things I believe in and what we try to do. Every coach is different in their philosophy, and I think the things that we did this year really worked and were good for me, and I think it's going to make me be a better coach in the long run.
When you look at that series against Laval, Coach, Emmerich head coach Mike Leone joining us in the sports bar, were there differences in that roster and how it's constructed versus our roster? I mean, we talk about the youth and the skill of this Emerich's team, and we're not going to question the grit or the toughness because we know that that's there. Is there a size component that was a factor in that series? Was there an experience component that was a factor in that series?
Yeah, I would say if you look at, they were definitely. I think it was probably. If you look at the back end, like their back end is probably like similar to our front end, and it's like all their high end picks are on the back end, right? Like Mayu, first rounder, Reinbacher, first rounder, Engstrom, you could argue is the best one of all three, was a second rounder, and then they insulated them. Like their D core was all guys that have played over, close to 400 or 500 games in the AHL. And then when you get to a series of playing in that environment, and they were, all their D-core was really big, and they made it difficult in Game 5. I thought we did a really good job in the series of really making them work and play in their D zone. But they got a lot of just experience. Like you look at Dolphin, he's played a long time. Barboulay, Mayu, Trudeau, Hayes, Witherspoon, they were deep, and they have young, but they were probably a little bit more experienced, I would say. But at the end of the day, we were, you're one game away from going through the best team in the league. And I think if you ask their coach, like after Game 2, we played a perfect game. And in Game 5, they played a perfect game. It just so happened to be the deciding game. But I think if we get through, anytime you score 4 goals in a game, you probably should win. And this is nothing against Dev. That's not what it's intending. But you'd like to think you'd steal Game 1 or another game. And the game we lost there, it was probably the best we played in the series. It didn't look like it, but it was a 4-1 game. We had 10 minutes of ozone time to their 3. We just didn't capitalize on our opportunities. We weren't opportunistic on, they had 4 scoring chances. They scored on all 4 of them, and that's how it goes sometimes. But I just think, they had a really experienced group. Primo's a guy that played in the. Like they were a really good team. Yeah. I think that's the best way I could have put it. Anytime you have 50 wins in a season is like we had 42, and it was the first time it's been done in 8 years. So like they had 50. Like they're just we just ran into we pushed them to the brink, but they were better than us in Game 5, and credit to them, and we got off. You can't chase the game in that rink. So we took 2 penalties to start the game. They score in the power play, and all of a sudden it's like you're in a different stratosphere, that arena,
Yeah, we're talking to head coach Mike Leone one last time this season as the Amherst season wraps up with that Game 5 loss at Laval. Coach, if you get Game 1, maybe we're not even getting to a Game 5.
No,
and the question is, like, I mean, I don't want to give put an excuse in your mouth, so to speak, but the 13-day layoff, gosh, can that be addressed so something like that doesn't happen ever again? Like, what kind of challenge was that after you take care of Syracuse, but then you got to somehow keep the guys sharp here for 2 weeks without a game?
Yeah, no, it was tough for sure. Like, I actually thought, too, I thought we came out better than I thought we would, to be honest with you. Like, we actually played a good game. I mean, you never want to be off that time, just guys getting in a rhythm, especially the guys like Cooley and stuff that we had down from the NHL, like, just to get them in a rhythm, too, because I thought they got to the rhythm at the end of the Game 3, and then it's almost like you got to start over. Like, not an excuse. It's just, you get Game 1, like, you're feeling different about yourself. And we didn't do that. It's a tie game with 5 minutes left, and they made a play. You always could play Monday morning quarterback. You'd like to have that one back. But it was a unique experience. I hope going forward in our league that just play every other day, to be honest with you.
Head coach Mike Leone, Rochester Americans, joining us. I want to play you some sound from your captain, Mason Yops.
It feels like there's a pretty big group that could still stick together, which would be great. I think we've built a really good culture here and have a good thing going. We've been making some exciting runs as a group, and I think we all really enjoy playing here and being together. So I obviously would like to see everyone stick together.
That's your captain, first-year captain, your first-year head coach. It feels like the culture that you've kind of helped, Mason has kind of helped you build there as well with the assistants and everybody else in the staff. Boy, it'd be nice to get a lot of these guys back next season, wouldn't it?
It would. There's so many good people in the room, and you never know in, sports, there's always family, money, things involved, but I hope, over the next probably 2-3 weeks, it's already getting closer to June. I know we had a lot of exit interviews today, and it was all great. And, I hope we do get a lot of guys back, because it is you don't get this experience too often just with the type of people we had. And, I hope. You never know, but I hope we get a lot of the guys back.
Mike, now that you're entering your first full off season, like, what is next for you? Are you going to have say for example, you've got the draft coming up. Are you going to have a seat at the table here? What's coming up for you next year?
Yeah, I think I'll go. I was just talking to Jason about that, just because I know the age group really well. Not that I'll have an input on the draft, but coach a lot of the against, and some of the kids I actually coach that are in the draft. And then I'm on baby duty as soon as I get home. My wife is, she's on me. She's like, there's no way these exit meetings are taking so long.
And you're talking to the guys on the radio. I mean, come on. Yeah. We got a little one to deal with here. One more question I had about Devin Levi, and I think Gino and I maybe have a little bit of a different philosophy here on what we've seen from him this year. And I love the performance of Devin Levi through the course of this season. I think he was spectacular, but I also greedily want him back next year. Does Devin, has he shown you enough where you're somebody who's developing him, in charge of kind of getting him ready for the next level? Have you seen enough out of Devin Levi for that next level to happen?
Yeah, there's two parts to it. I think for one, it's above my pay grade for sure to make the decision. I think he's put himself, I can say, like, he's taken huge strides in his game to where, yes, it's hard. You never know with goalies. It's such a unique experience to be an NHL goalie. And you look at even Skinner in the playoffs for Edmonton, like, look at his path, and just different guys that, everybody's timetable is different. And if they feel it's Dev's timetable, than it is. But I just think it's really important for young goalies to start games. And I think if you look at the track record of goalies, it's over 100 starts in the American League, and I think he's getting close to that. And I just think it's important to grab the net and play, especially for a young goalie, and mature his game. And I thought it was a huge year for his growth. So, yeah, I mean, as his coach, I'd love to have him here, but I don't know.
Are your coaches back? What's the status of your two guys there, Pacer and Vinny?
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm really hoping. I think they'll be back. They have to speak to Jason. I know Vinny's contract up, but I'm pounding the table. I thought he did a great job. Pacer will be back. I think you'll see Vinny back too, and I think he's really important to our group and did a great job with our younger players.
All right, Mike, go take care of your little one, man. It's been an unbelievable ride this season. It's been a pleasure to get to know you through the course of the season. We can't thank you enough for the time that you've given us here, the access that you've given us week in and week out, and documenting this team and their growth and their development. Unfortunately, ending in the North Division Finals, but we're expecting big things again next year.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for all the support and getting to know you guys, and you guys have a great summer.
All right, you too. Mike Leone, head coach, Rochester Americans. One last time, and we'll talk to him, September?
Yeah, it's always bittersweet. I don't like today is the day where it's like I love talking to the coach, whether it's Leone. We talked to Seth for years. It's always bittersweet when the season ends and you feel like there was still some meat on the bone. Like we allowed ourselves to envision through the course of this season when they were riding the wave and they were the best team in the league for a period of time. They're like, this could be different. This year could be different. And I think it was different. I mean, he made it different. His style is unlike anything I think I've ever seen in a head coach. But it works. It resonates with his team. Can you get a roster now? And he kind of inadvertently said, Laval has guys that have played in the AHL for a long time.
His style resonates with that age group. Meaning, whenever you listen to him, even when – oh my gosh, that was terrible, he will point out the positives in front. Sometimes he'll get on the guys a little bit, for sure. But it's not all the fire and brimstone. We like that. No, that is not Mike Leone. He's somebody that will explain the sport of hockey, and anybody who plays him, like, okay, this guy actually knows a lot of hockey here. Hard not to respect a guy like that. And again, not the same guy as Seth Appert. Same background, but
yes,
two different,
different personalities.
Yeah, and I think we all came to kind of really love and respect here, Mike Leone. So it's it's a good year where it's like, okay, I don't want October to come. Spare me those tweets. Yeah. No, but when it's here, we'll be ready. Yeah. I don't want to overlook the fact that the American Hockey League screwed Rochester on this with that schedule. 13 days. The game 1 loss, Danger. Quote, this is Leone. Once we got to the second period, we got to our game. The margin for error is really small against a team like that. That was his quote from game 1, where the Amerks are trailing Laval in the first. They ended up tying in the third. They ended up losing in the final minutes of regulation. In that, and point number 2, this BS best of 5, 2-3 format.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes the AHL look like an unserious organization. But it is, I mean, in what should be what is a developmental league, you would think, yeah, give them a 7-game series. But tough way to end the season with the 5-0 loss to Laval. And admittedly, probably the best team in the AHL this year. By record, they were. And the way they're playing right now, they're going to be a hard out.
Laval and Charlotte didn't play once this year.
Right.
So don't know none of these teams. So
should be a fun series.
Well, and you know what? Francesa.
now we've tuned out. Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
We will get to happy hour next in the sports bar. The Bills are back on the field, OTAs. But, well, there's a couple of news items here, neither of which are truly surprising. We'll explain. We have time for your calls as well if you want to join us. 585-866-4FAN is the phone number. 866-4326.
Fan Rochester weekday sports banter make your alarm clock look like a bad idea. WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
Bills OTAs today, feeling a little like football season. James Cook looking for a new contract. Cook was not in attendance for today's voluntary workout. Joey Bosa, a soft tissue injury that's going to keep him out a while. Here's head coach Sean McDermott.
It is concerning. Durability, availability are key ties to our roster. And so we basically look ahead in terms of what he's doing now, which is getting himself the treatment that he needs. And he's working hard at it. And that's all that he can control right now. And, we get him back when we get him back, probably at this point, training camp.
Amherst players having their exit interviews today. The team today saying goodbye to winger Lucas Rushak. Rushak will play professionally in Sweden next year. Game 4 tonight, Knicks and Pacers. Indiana is up 2-1. The Wings back in action tomorrow morning against Columbus. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
OTA practices began late this morning, and there was plenty of news.
And real proud of the way that the players have been here from an attendance standpoint and their focus to this point as well. So a lot of good work in the weight room, a lot of good work in the training room, getting our guys stronger, getting our guys faster, and getting on the field today.
I hope you'll all be proud of this Rochester Americans team because they played so well this year for being such a young squad. They just did an outstanding job.
Mike Danger.
You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Feels good to be back, Gene, not gonna lie.
We're here.
Gene Battaglia.
People would tune in from our show just to hear me spinning the tunes.
Thunder win in Minnesota, 128-126. Thunder are 1 win away from a trip to the NBA Finals.
Pacers guard Aaron Nesmith expected to be a game-time decision for tonight's Game 4 with the Knicks.
Stanley Cup playoffs. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Happy hour in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. So glad you're with us as we're back from a long holiday weekend, short work week, a Tuesday that feels like a Monday. We appreciate you listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, and our YouTube and Twitch channels at The Fan Rochester, where you can watch the Sports Bar. Go back and take in any part of the show that you may have missed. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
So if I had to kind of summarize today's practice for the Buffalo Bills, at least maybe the Sean McDermott comments, one thing absolutely not surprising. One thing that will tell you and say, well, that's not surprising either. And then the last thing, I didn't expect Sean McDermott to take that sort of approach. The one thing not surprising, James Cook, not in attendance. The one thing I can tell you this, that's not surprising. You mean to tell me Joey Bosa has a soft tissue injury? I'm shocked. Clutch my pearls. The last one was, hey, the Hard Knocks conversation would come up. It seems like McDermott and everybody leaning into this. And I guess it's from the standpoint, Danger, of it's here. You can't – bitching about it is not going to do anybody any good.
Sure.
So, McDermott's saying all the right things today.
Yeah, and I think, we forget sometimes how prepared these coaches are when they're forward-facing and they're being peppered with questions. And it's those moments where – they're maybe not 100% bought in on the message that they're sending out, where you have slip-ups. And I'm bringing this back to the tush-push conversation. The last time we heard McDermott kind of get flustered, not flustered, but just kind of look less than polished in front of the media was during the owners' meetings in the winter when he talked about injury data for the tush-push. And it became very clear through the course of the offseason and even today that the Bills' view on that play is at minimum disingenuous. It's I'm going to say this because it's what I'm being told to say, but within the framework of the rules is what McDermott said today. We'll play within the rules. The rules have now been set, so we always do our best to play within the rules and the rules that have been set up for us. They're going to run the play, and they've run it with a fair amount of success. Only the Eagles have run it with more success and more frequently. So what was all that talk and what was up with the vote, the proposal to vote yes to get the play out of the game?
Who put you up to that?
Who put him up to it?
Yeah.
Right. So, the Hard Knocks conversation, I think, is a pretty simple one for Sean McDermott. Like, behind closed doors, he's not going to say, I'm really excited for this opportunity. But forward-facing, when he's being peppered with talking soundbite, we have to approach this from a positive point of view, and we want to get better every day, and that's what the cameras are going to capture.
Yeah, and part of it, too, is, look, I haven't watched a show in over a decade, and chances are you haven't either. Maybe you watched one episode, but it's no longer appointment television. You're seeing the clips. It's not the same thing. And to me, it's about, all right, can you avoid being the clip number one? And number two, these teams, they've got editorial control. Like, we like to think that it's like, hey, no holds barred, we're going to show you everything.
Right.
No. If there is something that McDermott says that he doesn't want in there, you better believe it's not going to air.
It's going to make the organization. I have a hard time. I struggle with the notion that the Bills are going to look bad when Hard Knocks airs. The Giants looked bad. The Bears looked bad. Like, there were moments where it was like, oh, God, Eberflus is a clown. Why'd they bring that guy back? We all remember off-season Hard Knocks when the Giants were grappling with what to do with Saquon Barkley and how that blew up in their face. I don't think you're going to get that from this season of Hard Knocks because, one, the Bills are a well-run organization, but two, I think Sean McDermott will be prepared knowing that the cameras are there, knowing everybody's got to be on their game. And the moments that they capture that are going to be special will make it into the show, and the moments that maybe are less than flattering or don't paint the kind of picture that Sean McDermott wants to paint of this team and this culture that he's built, well, they'll be on the cutting room floor. We won't have to worry about it. And what was he, a drama major? Drama major, right?
Minor.
Drama minor. Okay, so he's got a little bit of that. He knows what he's looking for. And he's been forthright with the media, man. I mean, to hear Perino, who joined us earlier today, say that he's trying to get McDermott on his podcast and he might get McDermott to actually sit down on the Shout podcast with him. It's like, these are the kind of things that Sean McDermott is doing more and more of now. He still hasn't been in the sports bar, Coach. I don't know. I mean, he likes over, listening to our conversations when we're at training camp, but never come in to the sports bar officially. Maybe this year will be different. Maybe this year will be different.
But like, if we were ever going to get McDermott, that's the one I would actually go out there and sit down for.
Yeah, I mean, I know my backyard isn't as palatial and lush as Mike Catalana's, but do you think we could have Sean McDermott stop by our set?
Actually, that was Bean stopping
by. I know, and maybe McDermott will do it this year.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get McDermott and Bean both sitting back there, feet up on the fire pit.
Wait a second, you wouldn't your new whatever we call it's not
God, got a lot of work to do. The garage,
McDermott in the garage.
Oh, I mean, that would be a scene. That would be a scene. I want to break down film with McDermott in my Italian living room on the projector with pointer and the whole thing. Yeah, that would be a scene. But to hear McDermott talk today, he was in mid-season form. I mean, it's hard to be negative about anything going on in the offseason. Everybody looks good in shorts, every cliche that you want to apply. But ultimately, the two big storylines here are not surprises. You had to know what you were getting into with Joey Bosa. And I think the first reaction most fans had when they signed Joey Bosa is, oh, God, is he going to be able to stay healthy? This is a calf injury that's going to keep him out now, likely until training camp. After playing 14 games his last season with the Chargers last year, missing 20 games over the previous 2 seasons and multiple games in 3 of his other 6 seasons, durability is a concern.
It's a concern. It's also an opportunity for somebody like Landon Jackson. Interesting that Matt Perino, when unprompted, okay, who's the best player that looked at him? He mentioned Landon Jackson. Now, remember, we are in the offseason rules where Perino and everybody else that's granted the access, they can't tell you who's starting where, starting offensive line, or who's on the twos. No, McDermott doesn't want that out whatsoever, not until we get to training camp. But with that being said, there are a lot of guys here, Danger, that they're going to be looking for work. And I asked Perino the question, hey, Joey Bosa, is his roster spot actually safe on this team? Perino's like, yeah, he's Joey Bosa. But again, it's 1 year. Like, he's going to have to show you something at some point.
Right. And for years, we've heard McDermott preach, your best ability is availability. If you're injured all the time, can't get on the field, can't stay healthy, that's going to be an issue. It's the offseason. And really, ultimately, you just want Joey Bosa healthy come December, come January. That's really when it matters, and hopefully he's able to contribute when it matters most. The James Cook piece is not a surprise either. I think everybody kind of knew the voluntary portion was something that he wasn't going to participate in. The rest of the team is in attendance, Cook being the lone holdout. And again, everybody will preface by saying, well, it's voluntary. He doesn't have to be there. That's true. To hear that both sides are communicating, I think that's probably, loose. What does that mean? Did you talk to him, 6 weeks ago? Did you talk to him this week? When was the last time you actually communicated with him? It's mandatory minicamp. That's when this becomes a story. If he's absent for that and he's absorbing a fine, now we've got a little bit more meat on that bone.
I'm going to read you a quote from McDermott today. He's heaping praise on a player, okay? And normally when he does that, Danger, it's Tyler Bass who needs a little shot of confidence. It's Tyrell Shavers, right? It's neither, okay? But I'm going to read you the quote, and you take a guess who he's talking about. When he came back, he was in really good shape. You could tell he had been working drill-wise, weight room-wise, so real proud of what he's done to this point in the offseason. Continuing it now as we get into the 3 weeks of practice.
He's talking about Keon Coleman.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, this is I kind of dig what they're doing. I don't know what result it's gonna lead to, but they're the tear him down and build him back up again, right?
Right. That's it.
And hey, you're new to the NFL. Your rookie season was a little bit less than I think we all anticipated it would be. Get to work. We're going to challenge you. And with that work comes days like today where the coach will heap praise on you for that hard work. And, of course, if you provide the kind of plays that we expect on a Sunday, the praise will continue. You'll get your flowers. But I imagine Keon Coleman took a lot of those words at the end of the season to heart.
Well, in the discourse about why didn't the Buffalo Bills draft a wide receiver? Why wasn't there more added to the wide receiver room? I think if I had to guess, what the Bills believe is that the answer lies from within. Meaning there are two guys that the Bills spent top picks on. Can't say first-round pick for Keon Coleman, but kind of is, right? Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid. They're 1 and 2. Like you had one of, if not the best offenses in franchise history last year. I would say it's the 1990 Bills offense, but last year, wow. And you still didn't get the production you were hoping for 2 top draft picks. Right. So to me, like if they get more out of Keon Coleman, that's exciting.
Kincaid had a nice practice, a couple touchdown passes today for what it's worth. And, yeah, to hear the praise on Coleman from Sean McDermott, to see Kincaid performing on the practice field today, you have to imagine they're going to be okay as far as, targets for Josh Allen. Elijah Moore making plays, Curtis Samuel back as well. So, and of course, the addition of Josh Palmer through free agency. Training can't get here soon enough. Not wishing summer away, but right. It's going to be so much fun to watch how these guys get after it. And, of course, Josh Allen, the ringleader in the middle of all of it. James Cook, the kind of unresolved issue. And it's not really an issue because he's under contract. And he's playing this year whether he likes it or not. Whether or not he gets an extension, I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see him.
Well, it's I'm not sure we'll see him. It's the one storyline. That's 2 weeks from today, by the way, the mandatory stuff. So when you talk James Cook, he doesn't have to be there. 2 weeks from today, June 10th, he has to be there. And that's your headline story because if James Cook isn't there, wow. James Cook, for a voluntary day, they're still mentioning him on it, like in a slow news cycle. Like they're still mentioning him on the talking head shows. But 2 weeks from today, if he's there, cameras are in front of him, okay, yep. I'm here, and I'll be that's what we want to hear, right?
Plenty of players doing what James Cook did today. Plenty of players. Kirk Cousins not at Falcons OTAs. Kyle Pitts not at Falcons OTAs. Terry McLaurin not at Commanders practice. T.J. Watt wants a new contract. He was absent in Pittsburgh as well. I mean, you look around the league, this is not – we haven't had to deal with much of this with the Bills.
Not at all.
But now you've got a player who, at a position, he wants his money. He's done a great job. He's earned the right to want his money, and he'll get his money. I just don't know that it's going to be with the Bills.
Do you think, and Brandon Beane's never used the tag, but would that be enough? Like, look, we're going to offer you 2 options. Here's option number 1, where it's not the $15 million, but it's sizable. That's option number 1. Option number 2, if you say no to this, play this year, and we will not tag you. You can go test your market. Like that's also like the threat of the tag still exists out there, and then you really want to see somebody upset. I that's probably to me the 2 paths.
That'd be a question I'd love to ask Brandon Beane, honestly, and I think we've asked him about that in the past, and he I don't know that he's ever said that it's anything but a last resort, but something that they don't like to use, something that he doesn't want to have to use, and I get that because I feel like players view that, and you've said this, and we've said this for years. It's a hostile move. And sometimes it works out, but still in Cincinnati with T. Higgins being there, it worked out for T. Higgins. He got his deal. Is it going to result in them winning more games? Is the player, he's a great player. Are they going to be a playoff team with 2 wide receivers making what they're making right now? What else is going on there? I would have a hard time seeing Brandon Beane exercising the franchise tag on a player. It just doesn't seem like the kind of move he wants to make.
Again, that position, you can draft high and find, you could draft low. You could draft wherever you want. You can get a street free agent, find somebody. But what James Cook does, that triumvirate, that running back room, they kept it all together.
Yeah. The Bills, I want to say, have the 3rd highest percentage of returning players from last season, 2nd or 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the same names are intact. A lot of the continuity will be there. It'll be fun. So OTA is getting underway today. Cook not there. Bosa injured. No surprises. Also saw this from the Bills concerning the Bills, according to Buffalo News, and this is from COO Pete Gwelly, that the Bills have sold more than 25,000 PSLs now for the new stadium. 80% of season ticket holders have now signed up for PSLs.
And again, these are only the top price stuff. The stuff up top, rock pile, that sort of stuff, you haven't even been approached yet. They know they have you. They know once they put that price point up, people are going to gobble up. So I wish they would have rolled this all out at once, but I kind of understand why they didn't do that, because everybody would have been like, yeah, I want to be in, but do I really need the seat there? No, I'd rather be up top. This creates what they call fear of loss. So they're pacing just fine.
Yeah, on pace to sell out the building. With the new stadium holding approximately 62,000 fans, which, of course, is about 9,000 less than Highmark Stadium, one last year at Highmark Stadium. And it looks like the new stadium will be sold out with all the PSLs going to the remaining season ticket holders and others.
I like how you and I both viewed this. Shame on WGRZ TV in Buffalo, by the way. New Bills Stadium won't be completed until December 26, according to state report.
It's a great clickbait headline.
That is the clickiest of clickbait. Let me tell you some other venues that weren't ready by the time they opened. Skydome. Frontier Field. How about the damn soccer stadium? That's still not complete.
Yeah, they don't have
like honestly, that's all this is. Like, it could be landscaping or what it is. Like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh. Okay, they're going to get the certificate of occupancy. Okay.
That's all they need.
Wow. So a light fixture isn't hung up? Is that what this is?
We got to hang up drywall in the suites. I'm not.
It's not even that.
I'm not even worried about it.
So, stop sending that. Like, shame on you, WGRZ.
Yeah, that's not really a story.
No.
I think everything will be okay. They've still got time, obviously. The concern, I guess, was that they were a little behind schedule because of the weather this winter, but they gained that time and more, and they're on pace, and everything's going to be fine. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here, folks, except for a shiny new palace once it's completed by next summer.
So my daughter graduated from Fredonia 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
But then
Congratulations.
She wanted to stay. Like, hey, you want to come home? No. All right. You stay. So executive producer, son and I, like, we go like, hey, let's take a detour around the stadium. And, like, it's a Saturday night, like around 8 o'clock. There's still people working around there.
Of course.
It is completely around the clock.
Yeah.
They're not kidding.
Working shifts.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody that's got a hand in making that thing will take an enormous sense of pride that you've got this new, unbelievable state-of-the-art facility right across the street from the old, decrepit, falling apart stadium that's been a part of our lives for so long.
I think, like, what is that going to do to our self-esteem? Like, okay, yeah, we paid for this, but this is not what this is ours?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
My first thought isn't that. My first thought is how long until we ruin it? We can't have nice things. How long until somebody, oh, God, my cup holder broke or whatever, like the little things, the little details that you just notice aren't quite there after a longer period of time. Like, at what point does that start to happen? I went for a walk across the Ponderan Bridge here in our neighborhood.
Oh, the graffiti.
It's brand new.
Yeah.
It's brand new. It's literally I want to say it's less than 6 months that it's been open, and already there's graffiti everywhere. I'm like, come on. Can we not have nice things? I'm sorry to get preachy and old man-like, but I worry that that's the stadium. One bad game at the new stadium and things could get wrecked.
Time out. I had the anti-graffiti taken. I was, given the old man, but like, this is expression. And like, no, this is something that stop with it.
I'm okay with street art. Like, if you're an artist and you're creating something artistic and it's visually appealing, great. But to see just stuff tagged, it's like, ugh, come on.
That's the majority of it.
Yeah, what are we doing? So anyways, that's my first thought. But it is, you're right. When it's done and it's beautiful and everybody's there, it's going to feel special. We still don't know what the first event is, though, right? That's going to be interesting.
I hope it's not, okay, let's bring in the Goo Goo Dolls or whatever, something Buffalo, and everybody will probably eat it up, but like, for us here, it was like the Beach Boys. Like, okay.
The Beach Boys were at Frontier Field at the opening?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably be the Goo Goo Dolls, Gene. I think you just laid it out. Yeah, it'll probably be the Goo Goo Dolls. we'll fill up the stadium for the Goo Goo Dolls.
What are the Buffalo Wax? Natalie Merchant? Can we?
Oh, she's Jamestown, I want to say.
Yeah. They can't counter.
What can they? What can Buffalo? Who can Buffalo bring in there? We dig up Rick James and throw him.
Danger.
Sorry.
Lou Graham.
That he's ours.
He's ours.
He's ours.
Yeah.
They don't get him. Let's get to a round of shots next, Gino.
Oh, NBA tonight. I promise you I'm going to stay up tonight. I'm not going to fall asleep.
I have the key to victory for the New York Knickerbockers.
Yeah, like the Pacers are changing course off the court. We'll tell you about that. How important is Caitlin Clark to the WNBA? Whoa. Well, this is going to be a little interesting case study here. And one of the greats that you and I grew up with, Danger, did not have a good weekend legally.
Okay. We'll get to that and more. You didn't tease anything about our favorite couple. Are we gonna get our quota? No new news?
I will scour the internet.
I mean, I want to say she was like challenging some reporting of Pablo Torre and
she did, and she
throwing
deleted,
around some like legal stuff, and then she deleted a tweet. All right, well, I'm sure, but just by bringing it up, we've reached our quota for the day. We'll get to that and more next. A round of shots on the way in the sports bar.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM. Sports Update.
Bills OTAs today. James Cook not in attendance. Of course, he's not required in this port or the offseason. Head coach Sean McDermott talking about
Yeah, we're staying in touch like you'd expect a player and a coach to do. So, James will be here when he's ready to be here, and we move forward.
Joey Bosa is out right now with a soft tissue injury. It should keep him out until training camp. Rochester Americans, their season's over after the loss in Game 5 at Laval. Players cleaning out their lockers, exit interviews today. The team saying goodbye to winger Lucas Rušek. Rušek will play professionally in Sweden next year. Tonight's Game 4, Knicks Pacers, Indiana up 2-1. Wings off today. They host Columbus tomorrow morning at 11. Gene Battaglia, sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The best local sports talk in the Flower City. One Bills Live in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Weekday afternoons on The Fan, Rochester.
Key for the Knicks tonight, just spot Indiana a 20-point lead.
Sure.
Let's get to a round of shots in the Sports Bar.
I mean, Danger, you want to simplify it, that's one way. Another way is look at how teams shoot from beyond the arc. Boston went cold in games 1 and 2. In their series, they lost. In Game 3 for Indiana, they made just 5 3-pointers, leading to another New York rally. The Pacers, they haven't lost back-to-back games since March the 8th, and now we're going to find out if Karl Anthony Towns can carry over that big-time performance in the fourth quarter into game number 4 here. Towns with 20 points in that last frame, third most ever by a player in a conference final. As for Indiana, guard Aaron Nesmith is a game-time decision. He's got a swollen right ankle. 8 p.m. tonight on TNT.
Much like I fell down the rabbit hole of Knicks fans celebrating outside of Madison Square Garden, I have recently fallen down the rabbit hole of videos of Karl Anthony Towns being zesty. And fans impersonating Karl Anthony Towns being zesty. Oh, my God! Just every moment that Karl Anthony Towns has been zesty being impersonated by fans, and I see video after video after video. Honestly, it makes me like the Knicks even more in this series. Knicks in 6.
Yeah,
it was always Knicks in 6.
Knicks in 6, sure. Win this tonight, go back to the Garden, right? Tyrese Halliburton's dad, John, is back allowed in the arena tonight to watch the game, although it's going to be from a suite, which means he has much less of a chance of a confrontation like he did back on April 29th. That's when John Halliburton got into the face of Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Good.
Dad will not be going to any games at MSG, and that's probably a good thing.
What was he saying to Giannis? Hey, you don't have any heart? This season is a failure?
Is not the failure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love it.
How valuable is Caitlin Clark to the WNBA?
She is the WNBA.
Is it like Tiger in his peak powers to golf?
Yes. Yes.
I'd agree with that.
Yes.
We're going to find out. Clark is going to miss a minimum of 2 weeks with a quad injury, which minimum 4 games she's going to be out. Now, let's pause right here. She hasn't missed time since high school, so this is going to be different for her. 2 of those 4 games, Danger, are road games. And in the WNBA, you're not playing in the big venues. These games are moved to bigger venues in order to sell tickets. Oops. For example, tomorrow night's Washington Mystics game, that went from arena that seats 4,200 to the arena in Baltimore that seats 13,000. The game in Chicago on June 7th, that's more of a big deal. Moved to the United Center. Oops, tickets now crashed on that, where they're going close to $100. Now they're down to $25 after news of this injury. Only 7 teams in the WNBA share a venue with an NBA team.
You mean to tell me Angel Reese and her exquisite play isn't going to draw more eyeballs to the league with Caitlin Clark being gone for a couple of weeks? You're kidding me, right? No, she's it. She's it. And the sooner the rest of the league realizes that she has the ability to make all of them more money and get more eyeballs on their product, the better they will be.
Let me just ask a question. It's about TV, right? I'm going to ask you the question, and you're going to say the answer is TV. I was surprised to learn, wait a second. The Washington Mystics play an arena that's the size of the Gene Policini Center at RIT, 4,200. Like, we couldn't support a team like this in Western New York, but again, like, Washington is there because that's the end game, right? They want the big old TV contract.
You want the TV contract. I think as a sports fan, you want to see quality. And you know it when you see it. And it's not Angel Reese pulling down me bounds and missing layups and throwing up bricks constantly through the game. It's Caitlin Clark hitting logo threes and doing it like effortlessly the way she does. It's a big difference. And I seriously, I want to like the product, but I can't get into until everybody realizes that she has the ability to rise. All the boats will rise in with her tide. When they realize that, then I might pay. I want to see her on a bigger stage too. If she's playing for a championship, I think that's going to captivate more eyeballs.
Have her going against Sabrina Ionescu
Yes.
or something like that, because there's other talented players, but for many reasons, Caitlin Clark has captivated our imagination. It just seems like, okay, this is highlighting the growing pains of this league. Like, who knew that there were only 7 teams playing in real arenas?
You're right. Well, I mean, they have an opportunity with her. If they choose to not squander this opportunity to actually become legitimate, to make more money than they've ever made, to expand, to get bigger, to get more eyeballs, to get more fans with butts in seats, she has that ability. And when they realize that, then things will get better. You're going to see here the next 2 weeks, the WNBA, nobody's.
No, another example, she probably will be back by this point, but in early July, game against Connecticut, they play in the casino still.
Yeah.
No, that one got moved to the TD Center in Boston.
Of course.
Boston doesn't have a team. Go sell the 18,000 tickets.
Of course.
Yeah, you're going to see a player, not necessarily.
Well, I mean, that's your answer right there. Was that happening before she got in the league? How can you not see the benefit of Caitlin Clark? Yet everybody in the league is so adamantly against Caitlin Clark. Like it's some kind of rite of passage, or she has to prove herself, or she has to pay her dues.
Well, there's also the league has a PR problem where, okay, good on them. Opening night, Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese. Great matchup, sold out crowd in Indiana. Caitlin Clark has a fantastic game. They win. Is that the story? No. Statements about some online troll or whatever it was. Like, no.
That's not
don't ignore it and move on.
Right. Why do we watch sports? We learned this lesson early on in the infancy of the sports bar, right? We were faced with this
day one.
We were faced with this when we launched this show, and Colin Kaepernick thought it'd be a great idea to take a knee. And there's a lot of people, the stick to sports crowd, right? Hey, stick to sports. And a lot of people did not stick to sports. We view sports as an escape. It's something we use to forget about the problems in the world. We don't need to politicize everything. We don't need the problems of the world to bleed in to our entertainment. That's what it's there for.
The Broncos announcing today they're going to induct wide receiver Demaryius Thomas into their Ring of Fame. Thomas died at the age of 33 when he was found unconscious in his home in Georgia. This after he suffered an apparent seizure. His brain donated. Thomas was found to have CTE.
He was a really good player. That's a worthy honor. And 33 gone too soon. But he was a lot of fun.
2011, one of 2 first-round picks for Denver. Do you remember the other one?
Ooh.
It's an easy one.
It is?
Oh, yeah.
2011.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
Tim Tebow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got Josh McDaniels was the coach.
Talk about when Star. You couldn't understand, like, how could you hate Tim Tebow? I'm like, danger.
Get with the program,
Come
Gino.
on.
Everybody loves that guy.
No.
Everybody loves that guy. He was great in college. He was great.
Former gymnast Mary Lou Retton was arrested, charged with DUI. This happened in West Virginia. Now, wait a second. I'm like, well, at least that's good. She's alive, because I remember us talking about this in 2023 when one of her daughters put up a GoFundMe page asking for help paying mom's medical bills. She was battling pneumonia at the time.
Do you think mom put her up to that, or she did it out of the kindness of her heart? Say, mom's battling. We need to start a GoFundMe page. Like, what was the agenda behind the GoFundMe page? When most everybody looks at Mary Lou Retton and thinks to themselves, she's got to have some level of success. Like in her portfolio has to be somewhat robust after being what she was for so long, captivating an entire world. Won Olympics.
We have a development sort of when it comes to Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson.
Oh.
This is from Yahoo. You challenged me, okay? And, of course, I had to come up with something. And this is from the world of finance. Jeff Vashita is the reporter here who goes over her real estate portfolio where in the last 18 months she's purchased property over $8 million. 3 properties in Boston and also a cottage in Cape Cod.
Wow.
The lovely town of Harwich.
That's not a nothing. That's $8 million. She has $8 million just laying around?
Well, it's got to be hairdressing. Her father was a fisherman. I can't be it either.
Wow. $8 million.
$8 million.
Just laying around to invest in real estate. Good for her. Maybe we picked the wrong path, Gino. I'd be good with a set of shears and some clippers.
One in Roxbury is one of the properties, and believe it or not, the property charging rent $17,000 a month.
That's it.
Yeah,
$17,000.
Maybe
that's where you and the family vacation every year, right?
No. Who was that? Maybe it was that guy. She took the real estate seminar. Do you remember those commercials? Like, I'm going to show you how to change.
How to get out of a timeshare.
Yeah,
that guy.
Oh, that guy maybe too.
Well, thank you for that, Gino. We can't go a day without an update.
Yeah, and there's pictures. Is it a ring? Is it not a ring?
It's a ring. It's got to be a ring.
Oh, it definitely is a ring, but is it a ring?
Oh.
The ring, I should say.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll come back with last call. Your chance to have the final word in the sports bar before we close up shop here at 6. 866-4FAN is our phone number, 585-866-4326.
866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
His last call. Few ways for you to catch up on anything you may have missed from today's show, including head coach Mike Leone, the Rochester Americans, Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. Both of those conversations are available wherever you get your podcasts. Inside the free-to-download Odyssey app, you can go back and listen to any part of the show you may have missed for the next 72 hours. And also our YouTube channel and our Twitch stream at The Fan Rochester. You can go back and watch any part of the Sports Bar that you may have missed.
We normally have the red and blue colors. Somebody switch everything over to blue, everything. And
This over here you can change. That light you
yeah.
can change with, I think there's a remote control over there, Gino. If you want to make it red, I think you can. You want to turn it whatever color. There, red. Look at that.
Red.
Woof. Fancy. So fancy, the lighting in this studio. Pizza Dude, just unbelievable in here. We got a backdrop, a TV. I mean, everything that we got here in the studio. Professional equipment. We no longer can say like college stations have. Well, college stations still have better technical equipment than we do. They're just more. Well, that's a story for another time. Anyways, fun show today, and if you missed any of it, you can find it in the free-to-download Odyssey app.
Yeah. Hockey tonight, Dallas, Edmonton. I kind of fallen by the wayside when it comes to hockey here, Danger. I just do not care about Florida and Carolina. Sure, I like the story Edmonton. Can they get back to the final? But am I willing to invest time? Not tonight when the Knicks are playing. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll divide and conquer. You watch the Knicks. I'll watch Edmonton and Dallas.
You're going to give up Knicks Pacers for Edmonton Dallas?
Well,
really?
you know, for the show, for the brand,
show.
for the brand. You know, I'm a hockey guy. You're a Knicks guy. You know, I'll follow up on the Knicks, and we'll be back here tomorrow to recap everything. I think the key, like I said, key to victory, 20-point hole. You know, spot Indiana, spot them a 20-point lead, and then let's start playing. It is kind of funny to me though that if Brunson, you know, does find himself on the bench, what does that mean? Does this Knicks team is Brunson, for as much of a killer as I believe Brunson to be, I still don't necessarily believe he's the kind of player that makes everybody around him better.
He's Westbrook.
Yeah.
That's who he is. Like, you're watching him. Look, he can use his body and leverage and, you know, get around guys, and he'll find open guys, but it's got to run through him. And when it's working, that's great. But Karl-Anthony Towns bailed this team out. And if you're the Knicks, don't you want to keep that rolling tonight? Can they adjust to that on the fly? Do you see less minutes from Brunson?
It would be very un-Tibbs-like to not run those guys into the ground. Neesmith being a game-time decision is not a nothing either. That guy was an assassin in Game 1, and that would certainly play in the Knicks' favor if he's missing some time tonight with Game 4. What does the world look like? We'll be here tomorrow to talk about it. We'll also be joined tomorrow by the host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, our pal PJ Glasser. We'll talk NBA, Eastern and Western Conference Finals. We'll talk Stanley Cup Finals. We'll talk some golf, as we do, baseball. We'll get you some winners if you're going to play tomorrow with PJ.
All right. You probably haven't seen this yet. Maybe you have. Apparently, Ben Johnson, I'll read the headline. Bears head coach Ben Johnson lit up Caleb Williams at practice today.
Good.
Going after Cole Kmet, too.
Good.
After he lined up incorrectly.
Good. Well, head coach holds players accountable. Story at 11.
Are you used to this in
Good.
Chicago?
Good. Tell me more. I'm getting excited. That's good. And, you know, I think, well, look, it's the season of hope. It's the season of optimism. Everything is great when everybody's in shorts. But hearing that the coach is lighting them up, good. Speaking of OTAs, Alex Brasky covering the Buffalo Bills for the Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest as well.
He tweeted out an interesting photo that some are picking up, and I think that's going to be one of the spring storylines, like Keon Coleman, the work he put in. You heard Sean McDermott talk about it. We read you his quote, but Brasky actually has the picture, and it's like, oh, okay, there's some definition there on those thighs. There's
Keon Metcalf?
Yeah.
We're getting a freak showing up at camp this year when we get to Fisher?
Well, wasn't that the whole idea when you drafted him? And understandably, you're coming in May and you're not pushed like this, when you're going through the draft process. But what has he been doing here since the end of the season in February? Well, apparently he's been in the gym, and judging by those photos, looks to be evident. We'll talk to Alex Brasky tomorrow. More Bills talk.
Love that. That's tomorrow afternoon starting at 3 o'clock. Every afternoon, 3 to 6 here on the Fan Rochester, 95.7 FM, AM 950, and the free-to-download Odyssey app. Have yourself a great night. JR Sport Brief is next on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports